Yes, it's everybody's favorite time of the day. Once again, welcome to Satoshi's Bitcoin Chart Show. This is the Bitcoin forecast, the strength of the system, the health of the network, where we find out what's up with what is going down. Today's date is Thursday, the 17th of July, 2025, the year BSV comes alive. Branch your threads, expand your mind with treechat.ai, or your post put on chain. Right, let's get into it.
Satoshi, like a cowboy in the West, riding on the blockchain that they call the very best. 1 million strong, them transactions flying free. Just wait for the Terra node, you'll surely see.
Alrighty, rock and roll. So rock and roll. This show is dedicated to a whole load of newbies that I met at the weekend. Had a fantastic time with everybody. So I'm just going to go through a bit more detail in what the fundamental figures mean, because everybody in the shitcoin market just simply looks at the number going up and down. They have no idea about the figures going on under the bonnet, because they think that these are speculative assets, pieces of crap that do nothing. They don't bother looking under the bonnet at the workings of the digital engine here. So I'm just going to spend a bit more time explaining on it. So we can see that we've got on the left hand side here, it says Bitcoin, but in actual fact what we call BTC is Gregcoin, because this is Greg Maxwell. He is the head of the deep state technical team, which is Blockstream, which control BTC, which is why we call it Gregcoin. And the term Gregcoin came from an email on the 29th of July 2015, when Mike Hearn, who was a trusted Bitcoin developer, who knew Gavin Andresen and John Matonius, who were the co-founders of the Bitcoin Foundation, that were handed their keys to the project by Satoshi Nakamoto early on. He said in an email to Greg Maxwell, look, it's clear you've decided that the way Bitcoin was meant to evolve isn't your personal liking. That's fine. Go make an altcoin. And that's what he's done, an altcoin, where your founding documents state that it's intended to always run on a 2015 Raspberry Pi, or whatever it is you mean by small device. Then when someone says, gee, it'd be nice if we had some more capacity, you can go point at the announcing emails and say, no, Gregcoin is always meant to run on verifiable small devices. That's our social contract and is written into the consensus rules for that reason. And this is why we call it Gregcoin, because BTC is no longer Bitcoin. It's not a peer-to-peer electronic cash system as defined by the white paper. They said it's digital gold, not many use it, store of value. Well, if we're not meant to use it and they've restricted it so we can't use it, what are we stuck with? Oh, would you believe it? We're stuck with good old central bank fiat currency. What a coincidence. That's why we call it Gregcoin, and this is probably why BTC has an orange logo, because this guy has got a ginger beard. Love it. So we got Gregcoin, $118,000, B crash, what a joke, Fisher Price cash, who cares? But then we've got Bitcoin. The original protocol goes right back to the Genesis block. It hasn't changed, making it the real Bitcoin, the true Bitcoin, the genuine Bitcoin, and the world's first and only ever digital commodity, backed by the value of data sovereignty, making it the most valuable commodity on earth because it's an extension of our own personal freedoms and liberties. So you can see that the original protocol, the Genesis block, was created on the 3rd of January 2009. Block 1 was created on the 9th of January 2009 and carried the #1 legacy address with it, which is a template for identifying the original Bitcoin protocol. But as you can see here, the chain was split on the 1st of August 2017, and the issue was, well, where is the original ticker symbol going to go? Which chain is it going to be on? Well, obviously the deep state manipulated it onto their chain, and once they got control of the ticker symbol, they then implemented SegWit on the 24th of August 2017 that segregated the digital signatures from the transaction data. And in section 2 on the Bitcoin white paper, it says, we define an electronic coin as a chain of digital signatures, because when you remove the digital signature from the transaction data, you remove all claim, all contractual credibility, and therefore all economic value, which is why they did that. But they told everybody it was a software upgrade and it was for your benefit. Where have we had that before? But even though they stole the ticker symbol, what they couldn't take with it was the #1 legacy address, because whenever transactions don't go through the Bitcoin protocol, they can't carry the #1 legacy address with it, which is why BTC now has legacy addresses starting with either the number 3 or the letters BC. So the chain continued with a change of ticker symbol, and it was given the ticker symbol BCH. But they know you can't just do it once, you have to do it twice to confuse people. So another group of developers stole the ticker symbol BCH and put it on another alternative chain. This time they called it a CTOR fork, because CTOR stands for Canonical Transaction Ordering, which means they were effing around with the way transactions were ordered. All transactions on a commoditized network have to be listed chronologically, in number order, in the time that they were uploaded, because if they're not being listed and you have somebody prioritizing transactions over others, that means you have a third party tampering with transactions, which is precisely why BCH again could no longer carry with it the #1 legacy address. So the original protocol and genuine Bitcoin carrying the #1 legacy address just had to change its ticker symbol once again, and it's now called BSV, but it's just Bitcoin. Oh yeah. Right, so let's have a look at these figures here. So these are the figures that you really need to know about. So you can see there is 4 here. There is block size, there's transactions, there's network nodes, and there is hash rate. So the block size is the amount of data flowing up onto the network. The data is uploaded via the transactions. The transactions are processed by the nodes that create blocks and supply the hash rate. And the hash rate is the amount of investment, i.e. the amount of hashing power that each mining operation can afford to put on the network that they hope to win Bitcoin with. And the hash rate is obviously attracted to the market price, which is meant to be representative of the value, which is meant to represent utility demand. But at the moment, it doesn't, because the entire market is manipulated by a fiat currency crypto called Tether, which is meant to be pegged 1-to-1 with fiat currency. But as we all know, fiat currency is also fraud, so they can both be manipulated. The central banks manipulate the printing of fiat currency to manipulate the stock market, whereas with Tether, what they do is they manipulate the price of the crypto market, which is why the crypto market even has a price, because all the coins do nothing. So block size. Block size and transactions represent the amount of utility on the network. The block size is the amount of data being uploaded. The data is uploaded by the transactions. So you do not need network nodes and you do not need hash rate if you don't have block size or transactions. And wherever the largest block size is, all the other metrics will follow. So first of all, you look at block size, transactions will follow the block size, network nodes will follow the transactions, hash rate will follow the network nodes, and price will follow the hash rate, because, well, hash rate will follow the price because the price represents the demand for the network, and the demand comes from its usefulness. That's the whole point. So you can see here that actually, if you look at the top left, it's 28.62, although CoinDancer's got it listed at 31 because they're not demonstrating the figures anymore. We now have a network across all the Bitcoin forks that's got 69.26% of across all the data of all the Bitcoin forks, and yet it is literally probably the cheapest coin there at $31 when you take into account the supply. So what we'll have to do, just going downwards this time, because block size and transactions are sanity, network nodes and hash rate are vanity. You don't need network nodes or hash rate if you haven't got any block sizes or transactions. So what we're going to do now is just look at the difficulty adjustment. Now the difficulty adjustment adjusts itself depending on how much hash rate is on the network, so that on average a block is always propagated every 10 minutes. But the more the difficulty adjustment is increased, because due to the volume of hash rate on the network, the more expensive Bitcoin becomes to extract. And as you can see here, Bitcoin, the difficulty adjustment is literally at a second all-time high, which means it's going to cost a small fortune to actually extract a Bitcoin from the network due to the amount of hash rate that is on it, which means that if it costs more in energy consumption to extract Bitcoin from the network, that means you're operating at a net loss, and it means the mining operations are going to go out of business. It always has to be more profitable to mine Bitcoin than it actually costs to extract in the first place. That makes sense, but because the price doesn't have any utility demand behind it and they're just simply pumping it, the only thing that the miners can extract is Bitcoin itself and not the block fee, which we'll come to in just a minute. So this is the BTC Gregcoin difficulty adjustment. So miners are going to be absolutely sweating when they see how high that difficulty adjustment is. However, when you look at BSV, the genuine Bitcoin, you can see the difficulty adjustment is very fluid here. And it literally changes as the hash rate changes on the network, rather than changing every 16 days like it does on Gregcoin. Look, it's very fluid here. Very fluid. Which means it's far more efficient to mine because the difficulty adjustment adjusts as and when hash comes on and leaves the network. So that's looking very good there. Next, we'll have a look at network nodes. So anybody who hasn't seen this is the hash rate on the actual hash rate rather than difficulty adjustment on genuine Bitcoin, which is in the red here. You can see that's been fairly steady for 3 months, 6 months, 1 year, 3 years. Look at that, steady as a rock. B crash in blue, like in comparison, you can see that sort of like had ups and downs with spikes in the price and all that. But the genuine Bitcoin hash rate, steady as a rock, steady as you like. So now let's have a look at the network nodes that produce the hash rate. These are they. If you haven't seen these before, this is what they call a Bitcoin mining operation, which will eventually transition into Bitcoin payment processors. Because as the block reward goes down to 0 when all the Bitcoin is extracted, the only thing the miners have to compete for is the block fee, which is the volume of transactions within the block. But look at this, all these operations here were stemmed from the writing of one 9-page white paper. Just absolutely staggering. Look at some of these things. They are absolutely enormous. Absolutely enormous. Blows my mind every time. I will never ever get tired of saying that, because it's true. It literally does. Just absolutely staggering. The size of that one. Look at that Bitcoin mine in Texas. Good grief. Just absolutely huge these things are. All to do with Bitcoin. Mind-blowing. Mind-blowing. Right, there we go. So they're your network nodes. Let's have a look at transactions. So we've got Bitcoin here. Bearing in mind it's only like $28 here in the top left. We've got B crash that's at $494, and it's only got 4.59% of the transactions on the network, compared to the one that's literally almost 10x less than that, and we've got 37% of the transactions on the network. So you can see the discrepancy in the price, literally just by the volume of the utility. The transactions, literally B crash and Fisher Price cash are like ghost chains. There's nothing on them. The only competitors are Gregcoin and the genuine Bitcoin. And look at the difference in the price, but Bitcoin smashing it on the block size. That's all you need to know. Right, so let's have a look at the transactions across the entire market here. So this pie chart that we're looking at here literally represents the utility across the entire cryptocurrency market. And you can see we've got Ethereum with 1.49 million transactions over 24 hours. We've got XRP in second place with just 677,000 transactions. Gregcoin with 414,000. And genuine Bitcoin here with 310,000. And look at this. You can see that genuine Bitcoin is ranked fourth, and this is over the entire cryptocurrency market here that's got over 40,000 coins listed on it. And yet this one in fourth place behind the big dogs that have literally got hundreds of billions of dollars worth of market cap is literally ranked outside the top 100 coins. That tells you what they're trying to do to it. And yet it's got 9.6% of the entire cryptocurrency market's transactions on its network. And it's just $28. Absolutely insane. The figures just don't match up, and obviously we know why, but you can see the discrepancy. It just doesn't, the price doesn't reflect the utility on the network at all, because it's being manipulated to distract people away from it. That is what's going on. So you can see here it says 310,580 transactions in the last 24 hours. We'll just cross-reference that with what's on chain. Let's have a look at this. Here we go. So we've got confirmed transactions over the last 24 hours, 273,275. So there's a bit of a discrepancy there, but the figures might have updated since I last looked at this page. All right. And then block size, we've got 69.26. Let's have a look at the blocks coming through. So you can see here on this column, on the far right-hand side, we got 11 megabytes, an 80 megabyte block. Look at that. So we've got one block here that's 80 megabytes. We're used to seeing maybe half a gigabyte or a gigabyte, which is 1,000 megabytes. Bearing in mind that Gregcoin has got a 1 megabyte block cap, and Segwit just allows that to increase slightly. So they're like, oh, we've got 1.4 megabytes of data or 1.5 megabytes of data. All these say 1 megabyte, which means there is more data in this one block on genuine Bitcoin than there is in the entire column of 30 over on Gregcoin. And yet the price is $28 in comparison to $118,000. It's absolutely insane. All right, let's have a look at some of these fundamental figures then. Let's analyze this. This is the hash rate. So hash rate follows price, follows value, follows utility, follows creativity, initiative, and intelligence. If you are intelligent and you apply creativity and initiative, you can make something useful. If something is useful, it can then create value. When it creates value, it can then develop a price. When it develops a price, it can then be measured against the cost of other goods and services in the economy and used as a medium of exchange. If something is useful, it's valuable. If something is useless, it's worthless. It's that simple. You really don't have to be a rocket scientist to figure it out. Proof of work by network since 1st of August 2017. So again, because the miners just simply chase the price and the price is manipulated by Tether and doesn't represent utility value, the proof of work is all on Gregcoin. But when utility, i.e. via Terranode, comes on the network, all the proof of work will flood onto the genuine Bitcoin, which has got the ticker symbol BSV, that is just represented by the color red in this chart. Check this out then. So it's currently 68,000 times cheaper to transact on Bitcoin than Gregcoin, but you're mining Bitcoin at a 48.9% comparable loss, which just means that miners should be preferable to mining on BTC. But again, all those genuine Bitcoin miners are never going to be giving up the genuine Bitcoin because they understand the true fundamental value of it. Yes, indeed. So it's like 9.1% more profitable to mine on Fisher Price Cash, well, who cares? And 2.1% more profitable to mine on Bcrash, but again, who cares? It just means that the miners, those shitcoin miners, aren't going to be holding any genuine Bitcoin. Imagine how they're going to feel when they realize their mistake, because it will be realized. Yes, it will. Daily average Bitcoin block size by network. So look at this. The red line here represents a genuine Bitcoin. It's still beating all the other charts, and this is a log curve, which means it's not linear and therefore doesn't represent spatial or visually doesn't represent its true lightness. You have a look at these lines here, but absolutely smashing it. This is daily Bitcoin transactions by network. So again, Bitcoin just below Gregcoin, but I mean, look at the discrepancy in the price. To what, $28 to 118,000. It's crazy. This is daily average Bitcoin transactions per block by network. So much of a muchness there. This is fees, as in like cost to transact on the network. So you can see this is measured in US dollars. So with genuine Bitcoin, it is sub-cent fees for a transaction. And the cheaper the network is to use, the more people are going to use it and the more valuable it's going to become. That's the whole point. So look at this daily average Bitcoin fees by network, but this is measured in Satoshis, which is part of a Bitcoin rather than US dollar. So they had to put it on a log curve here in order to fit genuine Bitcoin in because it's so much cheaper than all these other shitcoins. This is a daily Bitcoin fee to block reward ratio. So the red line here, as we'll look at this, that red line will be representative of the solid blue line here. So as the block reward continues to get cut in half every 210,000 blocks, what will happen is the block fee will eventually surpass the block reward, and that's when we have an economically self-sustaining system, which is what we are gunning for, which is why the cabal have restricted the block size on BTC, told people they're not meant to use it, developed a second layer solution to starve the miners of the transaction fees. It basically means that they've guaranteed the demise of Gregcoin. But what we want is an economically self-sustaining system that they can't stop. So we need lots of volumes of transactions on the network. And this is what Terranode will bring and invite. Yes, indeed. That would be awesome when that happens. Let's check this out. So this is daily accumulated Bitcoin blockchain growth by network, and I think it was on the 8th of November. Satoshi Nakamoto said it is strictly necessary that the longest chain is always considered the valid one. And the longest chain is the chain with the most digital data on it. And you can see the digital data on BSV started to absolutely rocket up. And again, they've had to put it on a log curve because they wouldn't even be able to fit it on a linear curve. It would take Gregcoin more than 1,000 years to put that much data on the network before it caught up with it. And that was if genuine Bitcoin stopped tomorrow. It would still take them 1,000 years. They can't do it because of the amount of data on the genuine Bitcoin network already. Let's have a look at mining operations here. So this is global hash rate 7 days. This is global hash rate 24 hours. This is Gregcoin hash rate. Other miners on there, which are the smaller ones, which is 9.03. Bcrash, other miners, 18.06. Fisher Price Cash, other miners, I think they're managing the profitability of their networks, 27.08 on there. And then CoinDance, again, is not reflecting the figures of the mining operations on the genuine Bitcoin here. So what we'll do is we'll look at what's on chain. This is the mining pie chart. So we can see that Kuv has got 36.36. QD Link 2121, TAL 18.94, SA 100 15.91, Gorilla Pool 7.58. Well done to them. All right, so we've got 5 miners on there right now. Still looking quite good. So this is Crypto Quant. This is the exchange's reserve. So the exchange reserve is not the market. This is literally the Gregcoin. The exchanges keep themselves in reserves so that they can enable their customers to cash out into whatever shitcoins they want back into fiat currency. So they hold BTC, Gregcoin, is the most liquid coin on the market. So what they would do, anybody who sells a shitcoin for profits, fiat currency profits, they would convert that shitcoin into BTC, and then they would convert BTC into US dollar and send them the US dollar. So not only do they hold a Gregcoin in reserve for themselves, for their own profits, they actually need it to convert all their customers' shitcoins back into fiat currency and send it to them. So when they are like cashing out of their reserves here, their exchanges are being depleted, that is not a good sign. It's not a good sign at all, because they're getting rid of it, meaning they don't want it on their books, meaning they're viewing it as a toxic asset. They're not holding it. It looks like they're either going to be cashing out themselves into liquid cash. They're not holding Gregcoin, because what's strange about it is that if the price of Gregcoin was going up, which it has been doing, you can see that, all-time highs, and yet the exchanges are cashing out of their reserves. This is very telling, and mom and pop investors have absolutely no idea what's going on, because if they knew what's going on, they'd be jumping on the same boat as this lot and getting out. It's really not looking good for them at all. And check this out. So Jacob King, and he is the CEO of WhaleWire, which is a financial analyst sharing unbiased and contrarian market insights. So they monitor the market. He said here, Bitcoin, and he means Gregcoin by that, Gregcoin is on the brink of its bloodiest event in modern history, and no one is talking about it. He said Tether is about to be banned once the Genius Act passes the Senate. Why do you think they've been desperately printing USDT, that's Tether, out of thin air, pumping prices to unsustainable all-time highs? Institutional data shows this week that the largest ETF outflows, that's exchange-traded funds, outflows ever. Whales are quietly abandoning the sinking ship. Meanwhile, Tether insiders are offloading record amounts of BTC through OTC, which is over-the-counter trade. So you're not seeing these sells on the selling pressure isn't represented by the market price. He said, if you're in crypto, get out while you still can. This isn't just a crash, it's an unprecedented bloodbath event waiting to unfold. Tether provides 85 to 90% of all fake volume of BTC and is the glue holding everything up. Once it's gone, people will realize how fake everything has been. And this is what he's talking about. Look at this. He said, this was just yesterday, he said another $1 billion of USDT has just been printed out of thin air to artificially prop up Gregcoin's price. That's over $4 billion this week alone. Tether is going all in to pump the Ponzi before they get shut down by regulators this week. The impending crash will be magnificent. And he knows what's going on. So we'll have a look at the Tether weather at the moment. So that was yesterday. And then he's just posted this. He said, just in, Tether has printed another $1 billion out of thin air to inject into Gregcoin to keep it afloat. Now look at this. And the date of this was the 17th of July. And so this is just earlier this morning. That's literally 8:51 UTC. $2 billion in 2 days. This is how fraudulent the market is. It's absolutely insane. So let's have a look at, so they've printed it, but has it gone into the market just yet? So we'll just literally have a look at what I refer to as the Tether weather right now. So this is the Tether over here on the left hand side representing $1. So we'll have a look at the market cap. Oh, there we go. So this was, this was the one that's gone in earlier today. Let's see how much has gone in. So it's gone from 160. Oh, so that's to 160.3. So that's 300 million gone in there, which means the total hasn't gone in. So it means they're probably holding it in reserve. But look at this in the week. It's gone from 158.7 to 160.3. So it's basically about 1.5 billion that's gone in there in 7 days. But this is actually showing on the market. This is their market cap. So really, the $2 billion they've literally just printed isn't showing on these graphs yet, which means it probably hasn't gone into the hasn't got into the market yet. But that's what they're using to pump it. Jeepers. But what we really want is this. So MNWE, which is pronounced money, this is a dollar-backed stablecoin running on the genuine Bitcoin network. And remember, the genuine Bitcoin network is the most secure, the most efficient, and the most efficient, the most secure, the fastest digital network on Earth known to man. And so what you really want is a dollar-backed stablecoin running on the world's most secure, most efficient network, which means you can send and receive it as fast and as efficient as light. That's the whole point. So any other sort of dollar-backed token on any other network is susceptible and vulnerable to cybersecurity, virus software, and central points of failure. The Bitcoin protocol is the only way to secure data. So it's the only network that doesn't have any central point of authority, control, or failure, which means your digital information is safe. So what we really want is everything on the Bitcoin network, including a dollar-backed stable coin, so that the banks can't freeze your account or close you down. You've still got dollar value that you can send and receive. So it just means that they can't implement, lawfare and financial, we'll call it forfare maybe, financial warfare on them. Like jeepers. Fin war is what we'll call it. Warfin, fin war. They say lawfare. We'll have to think of another one for financial warfare. Fin war maybe. Yeah, that'll do. Right, let's have a look at the Bitfinex here. So these are the long positions, which represent the sentiment in the market. And you can see there's a short ratio of just 0.26%. So in other words, the market is extremely bullish at the moment. But the thing is, though, they're bullish because they think Gregcoin is Bitcoin, and they have no idea about the fraud that I'm explaining to everybody here, because that confidence will literally erode in a heartbeat if they knew what I know, because they know what's coming, because it's useless. And if something is useless, it's worthless. Yeah, and yet they're bullish in the fact that they think it's useful and valuable when it's not, because they have no idea. No idea. Let's have a look at Coin Codex here. So this just shows you the 24-hour trade volume of genuine Bitcoin across all the exchanges here. And I just sometimes like looking at this. We've got Orange, we got Gate.io, 1.82, MEXC just under 1 million, Binance Futures 10 million. So again, futures means they're not actually holding the coin itself. It's a derivative of it. Upbit 11.39 million. That's really quite big. Index, that figure's wrong. HTX Huobi 6.7 million. That's pretty good. Poloniex 2.4. Buybox 2.3. Again, this is 24-hour trade volume. Yeah, all sort of below 1 million there. And then under sort of 500,000. Interesting. Then let's have a look at Upbit. This is a Korean exchange, I believe. Let's see. Close that. Yeah, Korean market supply liquidity. Let's see if I can change. No, there's no way I can change the language here. Surely there must be a search button on the home page, maybe. Maybe not. Maybe not. Oh, just converted it to English there. Excellent. Exchange, wallets. Let's have a look at exchange. Let's see if they've got BSV here. Here we go. Search. Genuine Bitcoin is what we want. Is that going to allow this? Oh. Let's see what it comes up with. Oh, Bitcoin SV. Let's have a look at that to USD. No. BTC to Korean won. Oh, they don't have a pair or balance. Favorite. Oh, that's a shame. Korean won. Let's have a look at that then. The Korean won is obviously their stable coin. Oh, yep, they're showing the pump there as well. Interesting. Yeah, you know what I'll do? I'll just add that to my my charts here. There we go. That's up bit. Got it. Excellent. Oh, there we go. So the 24-hour trade volume. Oh, there we go. So 24-hour trade volume. Yeah, look at that. Yeah, USD 11,508,935 USD. 24-hour trade volume for BSV. 11 million. Wow. Yeah, that's quite a bit of high demand there. 11 million. Wow. Check it out. Yeah, up it. 11.39 million. Very impressive. And a Huobi 6.7 million. Let's have a look at this. Yeah, 24-hour trade volume 6.7 million. That's spot on there. All showing that green candle there. Very interesting. Let's have a look back at Gate.io that supports, genuinely supports BSV, genuine Bitcoin. Let's see what they're doing. Yeah, just 1.86 million for them. But they're known in the space for supporting genuine Bitcoin. But again, the FCA have banned any trading on it if you're in the UK. Absolutely outrageous what they've done. Absolutely outrageous. And Qcoin again, not they used to be a big trader of it, but OKX have just listed it. You know, or delisted it, should I say? Again, you know, cabal influence. Yeah, trade volume on just 16% on Qcoin. That's really low. Let's have a look on OrangeX. See what's going on here. This is a new exchange that I found. I think they're trying to rip off Orange Gateway. Let's see what their trade volume. 24-hour turnover. 10.3 million. 10.3 million here on this relatively new exchange. But again, turnover doesn't represent a liquidity. So they might say, oh yeah, we're doing this much trading on it, trading volume, but they're not expecting anybody to withdraw it from their exchange. So I know lots of people that are trading on an exchange thinking they're holding BSV in their wallet, and then they go to withdraw it and the exchange goes, oh, error, 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 and they're just like, what the hell's going on? And it's because it's because they're telling them they've got BSV in their wallet when they actually haven't. That's why I'm always telling people, withdraw your BSV from exchanges. And it was Kurt Wottick Jr. that said that. But they reckon they've got $10.3 million worth of trade volume on there. It's a huge amount. Let's see, do we have OrangeX somewhere on here? Can't remember how I found it. No, it's not listed on there. All right, let's have a look at the price action. This is Gregcoin versus Bitcoin versus Gregcoin. So you can see here, look, we're even against Gregcoin. We still had this huge green candle here up the other day. Fascinating stuff. Fascinating stuff. Now we'll just have a look at Bitcoin versus USD. Yeah, there we go. Looks kind of similar there. Very interesting. Let's have a look at Orange Gateway. So we've got a price here of $29.25. Still got that green candle against the US dollar. And the price sort of has been going up ever since the 4th of July. Whenever we saw these large movements of Gregcoin in the market. Look at that. It's picked up quite a bit. So it was all the way down here. That's like $23. Is now $28. We'll just compare that to a Gregcoin. Yeah, look at that. Still got that big orange candle against Gregcoin. Fascinating stuff. Satoshi Observer. So check this out. Satoshi Observer has got Gregcoin at $119,000. $119,058. The average transaction fee is $1.82, so that's going to be no good for buying a cup of coffee if it's going to cost you $1.82 to even send the transaction. And they're saying current TPS, which is transactions per second, is 5. So let me get this straight. You're trying to tell me that Gregcoin, that's meant to be Bitcoin, that's meant to be a peer-to-peer electronic cash system that's been running since 2009, has only got 5 transactions per second on the network? What an absolute joke that is. What an absolute joke. BSV, the genuine Bitcoin, but people don't think it is because they don't know about it yet, is $28, and yet look at the average transaction fee. That is a 10th, 100th, 3,000ths of a cent. It is 3,000ths of a cent to send a transaction. It is nothing. And look at that, it's $28.42 compared to $190,000, and yet it's 3.44 transactions per second, catching up on Gregcoin. And then look at BCH, which is almost like a 20x the price. Well, certainly above a 10x the price here. It is half a cent for a transaction, but there's only 0.4 TPS on there, transactions per second, meaning it's basically one transaction every 2 seconds. But look at the price, $496 in comparison to just $28. You can see what I'm going on about. The figures just simply do not synchronize. They do not match. They're not representative of the network's true value, which is its usefulness. Absolutely crazy. And look at this. Somebody did a fantastic chart here. Now, this chart tracks the price of the original Bitcoin protocol. So you can see that BTC, obviously, it carried the ticker symbol BTC initially, and then it sort of went up to $1,159 back in that was 2013, and then we got a run up here, and it went to 2,868. I think the all-time high here, 4,000. Yeah, it hit that within 24 hours when it was initially relaunched on Coinbase. So the original protocol has actually got an all-time high of 4,295. And then when the ticker symbol changed again, they purposely crashed it and orchestrated the delist BSV campaign and all that. But this is the genuine Bitcoin protocol. Look at that, $28.92. $28.92. This is literally back in you're talking 2013 prices. 2013 prices. Legends were made when people bought Bitcoin at these prices. Just absolutely stunning. Absolutely stunning. All right, we've got to talk about the entire crypto market here. Look at that. The entire market cap, $3.79 trillion. Closing in on $3.8 trillion, which is making its way up to $4 trillion. $4 trillion. But look at this Gregcoin at the front with a market cap of $2.3 trillion out of the $3.7 trillion in total of the market. But for any newbies watching this, we'll just do this as an experiment. Look. So we'll do 200 coins per page, and we'll do the last page of this to show you how many coins are actually on the market. Look at this. So right now, there are 47,625 coins listed on the entire market. 40,000. And the genuine Bitcoin, BSV, was ranked 4th of this 47,000 coin market with the volume of transactions on it, and yet it's buried outside the top 100. Look at this. Last time we looked at it, there it is. Look at that, 102 at just $28.67. That is crazy. But I'll show you some interesting figures here. So this is the 24-hour trade volume. And the trade volume is what sets the market price, which is how they calculate the overall market capitalization. So the average 24-hour trade volume of most healthy market items is around 5%, whereas this is just at 1.84, meaning you only need 1.84% of the market to change its mind, and the whole thing is gone, literally. So that's a 1.84% there represents $43 billion. So $43 billion of a $2.3 trillion market, and $2 trillion being 2,000 billion. So 2,000 billion, yet you've just got 43 here, representing 1.84% of the market. It's not healthy at all. At all. Literally, they have no idea how thin the ice is that they're skating on. But they're saying, you know, Gregcoin's gone up sort of 14% in the last 30 days. You can see the graph here. 12 months, year to date, all. Look at this. But this is the ticker symbol. Look, up and down. The cabal have just been pumping and dumping it, trying to get rid of it throughout its history. And now it's at an all-time high. But again, it's all pumped by Tether, as we saw earlier. You know, it's really quite scary. But Ethereum, that's now $3,429. XRP, another all-time high. There we go. Look, all-time high, $3.92. And the 24-hour high was $3.35. So that's hit an all-time high. Oh, that was back in the day here. So that was actually back in 2017 during the original bull run. Right, so it's now just it's now $3.35, and the all-time high was $3.92. Again, just being pumped by Tether. Look at that. There's no real market demand there at all. Crazy, crazy. And then look how similar all these charts are. Look, you're trying to tell me that these coins do something different. I suggest, or I suspect, I speculate that the deep state technical team just have a group of guys saying, right, you manage the top 10, you manage the top the 10 to 20, you manage 20 to 30, and they just manipulate the market to make people think that it's genuine. When it's all manipulated, you got stupid coins like Bonk and Trump, Filecoin. I remember that one. All these names: Casper, Polkadot. Oh my god, honestly, Litecoin, Shiba Inu, Doge. Oh my god, honestly, just absolute pieces of digital garbage. But let's have a look at genuine Bitcoin. Here we go. So trade volume 3.52. That's all right. Let's have a look at the 24-hour. Just going down a little bit. But look at that. That's had a pump there. Literally just after this weekend, which is pretty good. The depth chart just so this shows you the price is going up at the moment because there's green demand coming in against the red there. So this is a breakdown of trade volume. So actually, Upbit should be listed on here with having $11 million 24-hour trade volume, whereas HTX, which is Huobi, only had $6 million. So again, not sure how much I trust these figures. CoinDCX in second, Gate.io in third, not sure about that either. MEXX Global in fourth. Yeah. But what you really want is the liquidity. So which exchange is holding the most liquidity, meaning you can withdraw it. So they're saying they've got Changely Pro with the most liquidity. So if you want to withdraw a BSV, you have to put your coin or put your value onto Changely Pro and then withdraw the BSV from Changely Pro. But I'm betting that they probably wouldn't let you. A lot of these exchanges now are just like, oh, yeah, can't withdraw that, can't withdraw. You have to withdraw your dollar value in USDC or USDT or BTC. You know, can't transfer your genuine Bitcoin off our exchanges. So they'll be holding the liquidity, knowing what we know, knowing what I've just been explaining to the market here. But liquidity, Upbit features on this one, on liquidity, but doesn't feature on 24-hour trade volume. Interesting. Right, well, at the Kellen Schweller countdown, it's now the 17th of July, 2025. We've got 63 days left until the countdown is finished. Like, literally, things are about to get seriously spicy. Stay tuned, hit that subscribe button. You're not going to want to miss this. And we'll just finish there with this one. It's a very, very truthful photo here saying people who are paid by our taxes shouldn't be allowed to decide how much tax we pay. I do believe that's what you call a conflict of interest. But remember, all tax is voluntary because a bill should be accompanied by an invoice. And if there's no invoice with the payment request, then it's a demand for payment and a breach of the peace. And as we now know, all taxes in commas there are now no longer going into a public purse. They are going into private corporate pockets, which means you shouldn't be paying it, and it's completely voluntary, which is why whenever a corporation doesn't pay tax, the only thing they can do is name and shame it because they can't take it to court. The only people that have actually been screwed for not paying tax are those who have signed the tax return because that's the contract with them, and that's how they get you. So there we go. That is a 44-minute show. Hope you enjoyed it. So as ever, be aware, take care, stay safe out there, and we'll see you in the next one.
2 years ago, you got SegWit, which we lied and cheated and stealed, and I was part of the lying and cheating and stealing to get SegWit, to get Lightning, which, by the way, had critical vulnerabilities and lost people's money.
The king still has one more move.
Remember, Bitcoin is BSV. Everything else is BS.